Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. In today's video, I want to share my hammock hot tent design with you all. Have a look at it. Let's get right into it. Alright guys, so getting started with the hammock hot tent shelter. There are a few tweaks that I added to this model. This is the current production model. If you guys remember, a few months back on my channel, I received the prototype and then I added the final touches to it, and now we have the finalized version. So what I added was some side guy outs right here down about midway, and then of course we do have the top guy outs at the top, and then we have the ones at the bottom. So we got 3 on the bottom, 3 in the middle, 3 up top in the middle, and then of course the others on the far end. This is a square tarp. It is 14.7 feet by 14.7 feet. So it is essentially a giant tarp, and we'll touch more on that in a little bit. The other changes were the stove jack. It is placed off to one side. This is exactly where I wanted it to go. So that way you have a little bit more room to come in on one end and then meet the stove on the other end, as well as the Lonewolf902 logo down here, which I'm very proud of. And then we do have 3 guy out rings going along the center of the top of the tarp to help out with hanging it. Now today I am out camping, and I did run the ridge line inside of the tarp because these trees are actually too close together. So you'll notice that there is a little bit of a sag in the middle. The only way to get rid of that is for me to have a proper pitch with the trees farther apart, which I don't have right now. So once you get it pitched very tight, that sag is no longer visible. And I'm going to link 2 videos of me camping with the shelter down in the video description. You guys can navigate your way there and have a look at the pitch in 2 seasons, one winter and one early spring, both with the wood stove inside burning with a hammock shelter. Okay guys, so coming over to one end of the shelter, you guys can see that I have both doorways wide open on this end and on the other end. You can close these in, and that's what I'm going to do later on tonight when I go to sleep. I'm going to close all 4 doors, put the pegs in the ground, and have a nice sealed shelter. Now, I want to touch on one thing that I've been getting asked very often is what kind of hammocks work inside of the hammock shelter setup just like this. Every hammock on the market will fit in here, including the Hammock Drummer 5.0 and even the Haven hammock. I've used both inside of here and they both work really well. However, if you're going to be using the Hammock Drummer hammock inside of here, you cannot use a wood stove. So keep that in mind. Every other hammock, including bridge hammocks, traditional style hammocks, even the Haven, you can use a wood stove inside of the hammock hot shelter just like this. Now today obviously I don't have a wood stove in there, but I'm going to link those videos in the description so you guys can navigate your way there and have a look at the hammock and the wood stove being used in wintertime. Now this shelter is coming in at 12 pounds. It is a canvas material like I've stated earlier. The benefits of having the canvas, it is absolutely bomb proof. So I designed this for true outdoorsmen and true outdoors women that get out there, do bushcraft, that don't want to worry about melting their fabric or the fabric tearing or any other kind of stretching or issues. This is a very robust fabric. Tent is coming in at 12 pounds, keep that in mind, so it's not overly heavy and it's not the lightest shelter, but it is designed to last. This is a buy once, cry once scenario. You'll be able to hand this down to your children. That's what I intend on doing, and it's just a bomb-proof shelter that is guaranteed to work. Whether you're using it as a tarp, whether you're using it as a ground shelter, I could sleep on the ground in here, or I could put a hammock in here like I've got today. There are basically, your imagination is the limit. However you want to configure this, you can configure it and use it. So it's very different from other hammock hot tents on the market where they only set up as a hammock shelter. This you can configure to whatever you want to do with it. It is excellent around embers and sparks. It's not going to melt. It is a shelter that is built to last. Okay, so coming back over to the side for a quick look, I want to point out how many guy lines and how many pegs I've used today for this hammock hot tent shelter configuration. So what I've done is I've got 1 peg in the ground here, I've got 1 peg in the ground there, and I did not put a peg in the center because I've got them pulled tight enough. I don't require the extra peg. So I've got 1, 2, the same thing on the other side. So that's a total of 4 pegs in the ground. I have 1 ridge line, tree to tree, and then I have 4 guy out lines. I have 1 right here above my head going to a tree. I have another one on the corner going to another tree. That is the entire shelter configured, ready to go with a wood stove inside if I needed one. Now, there are additional points, as I've already pointed out, one right here. If you are in high winds, you can put a peg in the center and run another guy line to this ring right here and pull it out so the wind will not push in on the wall. You will not have any issues with the material coming too close to the wood stove or the stove pipe. We have all these rings here made for different configurations of setup and for safety. Safety is number one with this shelter, and strength. We wanted something that was going to be very, very strong. Like I said, for the real outdoorsmen, the real outdoors women that get outdoors, they want something that is going to last, something they can rely on. This is something that you can rely on. All right, so let's have a look at the stove jack here. This is placed off to one side of the tarp. It is directly over top of the Lonewolf902 logo. We do have a separate seam which is overlapped, so the water will run down and over the seam instead of getting caught in the seam. We have a plastic toggle up here, and we've got about 4 to 4.5 inches of clearance from where this rolls up to the beginning of the stove jack, which is very important to help clear the pipe. Also, when this is rolled up, it creates a rain gutter which redirects the rain around the stove jack so it doesn't go inside of the tent. So this is a Velcro fitting. We simply open up the flap, we can roll it back, and what I'm going to do is toggle it in here. Very simple operation. The stove jack itself is also Velcroed into the tent. So if you do need to replace your stove jack, it can simply come off. You can replace it with a new stove jack. You can add a different stove jack if you wish. Whatever you want to do, you can do. So this is where the stove jack location is. Like I said, it is off to one side, giving you a ton of room on the other side to walk into the shelter, take your boots off, take your winter clothing off, whatever you need to do, and then keep your firewood and the wood stove off to the other end of the shelter, which gives a ton of living space. Okay guys, so coming inside of the shelter, you can see what I'm talking about with a massive amount of room. Whatever you see on this side is mirrored on the other side with this particular configuration. Now, as pointed out earlier, the stove jack, like I said, is pushed to one end of the shelter, giving you all of this area to come in, take your winter clothing off. If you have a chair and a table set inside of here, there's ample amount of room in between the stove to sit at a chair and a table, or even sit in a hammock with a table, do your breakfast, do your evening routine, whatever you want to do. There's a ton of room inside of here. So I'm just going to jump inside of this hammock really quick to give you guys kind of a perspective here. So with me sitting here, I would have the wood stove on a diagonal going this way. You can have a stove going this way or this way. I like having mine with the door facing that way because my head end would be up here, and typically I would reach in, load wood, and then go back to sleep. There is more than enough room. You are not going to melt your underquilt. You're not going to melt your hammock being that close to the stove. There is about 1.5 feet clearance. There is way more than enough room. I've had no issues at all with it. I know that's a concern that some people did have. There is no issue with the stove being too close to either the hammock or the actual tent wall. We've made sure of safety. Safety was number one with the shelter, and strength. So it is definitely safe and it is definitely strong, but this should give you a really good look at what kind of room is available inside. Now, if you do want to sleep in here on the ground without a hammock, you can go off to one side, or you can sleep this way. You could fit 2 to 3 people, depending on how close you want to sleep, on the ground with a wood stove. All right, so looking at the doorway, I want to cover this really quickly. This is typically how I have the doors. Keep in mind, like I said, this is not a tent, it is a tarp, and we didn't want zippers and snaps all over the place just for redundancy. It is a shelter, it is a tarp at the same time. So what I like to do is simply just like this. I click one tab up to the carabiner on the other guy out point there, and you can do the same with this point here. You can actually pick it up and open it farther if you like. But for me, I just simply drop them down like that. I come in and out as freely as I like. This works really great for me. It also works at blocking a lot of the wind, driving rain, and blowing snow in the wintertime. So I'm gonna shut the doors just to show you guys how it works. And what I like to do, simply unclick that from the carabiner, and I take a ground peg, pull the doorway in, and simply stake it into the ground just like that. That gives you a nice doorway. This is one half of the door. The other door panel simply comes over and it overlaps. Now the overlap will depend on how wide you've got the tarp spread. If you want more of an overlap, you can make the shelter narrow and taller. And if you want less of an overgap, then obviously you would make it shorter and wider. So right now the door gap in this particular configuration will cover about 10 to 12 inches overlap, giving you enough room for your hammock strap up top to ride up and down which is important because when you get in the hammock, that strap is going to go up and down, so there's no snaps, no zippers to get in the way. It will simply part and close naturally, creating no damage to the shelter. So from this angle here, you can see the door panel that I just closed. I'm going to close the other door panel right now, but I just wanted to show how much room is still here for me to come in and out with one entire door shut. To close the other door panel, I have 2 carabiners clicked to this, so that'll drop that portion. Undo that, it will drop that portion, and then I simply fold it over, put a peg in the ground, and just like that, we've got an entire door sealed. And like I said, the strap can still ride up and down through the part in the tarp, and it will close automatically at the top once you're in there and there's tension applied to it, creating a total bomb-proof shelter for wind, rain, snow, ice, whatever you've got going on. This shelter is going to keep you dry, keep you warm, and keep you protected. Okay guys, so coming inside, looking at these doors that I closed off, you guys can see the overlap here. We can take a peek through the doorway there. There's a generous overlap, keeping any kind of blowing snow or blowing rain that you may have been dealing with during your camping trip. That will all stay outside. Now, looking at the area that I'm at right now, the wood stove would be placed right here, just below the stove jack, giving all of that area open to whatever you want to do, as well as the other side of the hammock would be totally open. Now, if you're in here with one person, it's a palace. If you're in here with 2 people, it's still very large. You can sleep someone on the ground on the other side and one person in a hammock, or you can put 2 people on the ground and both people can access the wood stove from over here. I personally like sitting in the hammock and having a table off to the side and putting all my firewood and all my gear on the opposite side, and having this side as a dining and a wood stove area while sleeping in the hammock, and having just a lot of room inside of the shelter. You can also notice that the sunlight coming through the canvas, this is a very, very nice color. The golden light will come in even in the wintertime when the sunrise comes up. It is treated with a nice golden glow inside of the shelter. Also outside of the shelter, when you have a lantern inside, it glows in the forest, and it's just a really, really nice transmission of light coming in and out of the shelter. All right, so having a detailed look at this reinforced area. This is one corner of the tarp, but every single spot where there is a metal guy out point on the tarp looks identical to this. So here we have a triangle reinforced plate which has been stitched in here, reinforcing this entire area. We also have some very robust webbing with some box stitching on the front and on the back side, coming up to this metal triangle guy out point. Now, like I said earlier, this can go to a lake bed. You could freeze this on the ice, it can get frozen in the ground, and you can recover this very easily by chipping at it with an axe or a hatchet instead of damaging webbing, which is found on other shelters. This is the way to go for longevity. In my opinion, this works really well, and it doesn't get damaged when you recover it out of the frozen ground. Okay guys, so here we've got the Hammock Hot Tent packed inside of the carry bag that is provided. We've got 24 inches by 6.3 by 6.3 Lonewolf902 logo on the side. We've got some buckles, we've got some carry handles. It is canvas just like the shelter. I will mention, I never carry the shelter into the forest packed like this. This is what I use to store it at home, but when I go camping, I fold it flat. So it's about 3 to 4 inches thick, and about 10 inches wide, and about 20 inches long, 18 to 20 inches long, and it slides right in my backpack, sometimes in the hydration sleeve. So this size right here is more of a car camping scenario or more of a storage at home. It does fold very flat. I could fit it inside of a 40 and a 45 liter backpack with titanium wood stove and all of my camping equipment. That's a big shelter to fit inside of a 40 liter pack. It can be done, and I do it often. So I know this is kind of rushed, and I am out camping. I'm trying to enjoy myself, but this is something that I have to get done, and I'm probably not going to be pulling this shelter out again on the channel until winter time. Who knows? We'll see what happens. But if you guys have any more questions about the Hammock Hot Shelter, drop it down in the comment section. I'll do my very best to answer it. Also, this is only available at Pomoly.com. The link will be down in the video description if you're interested in navigating your way over there and having a look. When you get to Pomoly.com, click on the Lonewolf902 tab, and you'll go into my own page of all of my signature edition items, including my Wolf Den tarp, the Wolf Den 2.0 tarp, my titanium wood stove, and this shelter, and much more to come hopefully soon. So I hope this video was helpful to you guys. Like I said, if you have any questions, drop it down in the comment section, and I'm going back to camping. So peace out guys, and I'll see you in the next video.